Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, I have a very special guest, EK Wise. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to
Yeah,
be
no
here.
problem. I appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on today. When I saw the book cover, I was like, yeah, this is totally my thing. I used to teach seventh grade and eighth grade English before I switched up here in New York States of Social Studies. And I used to read like a lot of with the kids, a lot of the 39 Clues books and all sorts of different things, right? So the cover had me like right from the start. Blurb sounded really cool. It's definitely my up my alley. So happy to, you know, that you guys emailed and we could get you on today. So thank you so much for coming on and
Oh my
sharing
goodness.
your books and your writing.
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So we'll start right there with that first question. What has your writing journey been like up until this point?
So I want to say maybe second grade on, anytime we had the opportunity to write creatively, that was always my favorite assignment.
That's
Always,
awesome.
no matter what. It was always something I was really interested in doing. And then my senior year of high school, I was really lucky to get into this children's literature class, kind of
Oh,
called
that's cool.
Kitty Lit, which I
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
loved. And it was mainly writing like little children's picture books, but still, it was
Oh,
so
that's cool.
much fun. And we
Yeah, yeah.
also got to read this amazing book. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called The Uses of Enchantment by Bruno Bettelheim.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that. I'm gonna write that one down.
Highly recommend it. It is so cool. And it really goes into the history and the importance of fairy tales.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
so it kind of talks about them in history and why they were developed and how they were created. And it even goes into the psychology, sort of
Oh, that's cool.
yes, it's fascinating. There's a far more modern book. I don't know if you've heard of this one called Pop Goes the Weasel, and that's
Mm-mm.
by Albert Jack. Anyway, that's also really, really cool. Um,
Check that out.
so I loved reading that book. And in fact, that had such an effect on me that I have a character in my novel called Fabic, who is the agriculturalist and driver of the college. And
Oh,
he
that's
kind
cool.
of comes up with his own lyrics for well-known fairy tales. They're very kind of creepy, haunting. And they have a personal meaning to him, and everybody else is kind of just listening, going, okay, I don't know what he's talking about, but kind of interesting. But it's just sort of his thing. And he does it
Mm.
when he's out in the field on his own, and he does it when he's driving the bus, and everybody's trying to figure out like what he's sort of referencing. But anyway, so that had such an effect on me. And then in college, I took this really great class called, it was like an intro to geology class. And it was,
Oh, that's cool.
yes, it was affectionately called Rocks for Jocks. It was
Oh, that's cool.
really great. And so it was sort of, it got into, Pleistocene and Holocene and all the strata of the earth and the dinosaurs. And it just was phenomenal. So I kind of kept that in my mind.
Mm.
And then I always wanted to be able to write. And I just needed to kind of find some time, figure out where in my life, after I went to school and majored in psychology and I became a social worker and got married and became a mom, and trying to figure out when I was going to have that space for that creative juice to kind of create a story. And eventually that happened. So that's kind of how it all came to be. But all those influences throughout my life kind of brought it all came together in a nice amalgamation to create this story.
Super cool. I love that. I love our Verdi and I talked a lot about in a past interview talked about and he teaches a class on it on like the origin of myths. And I loved urban fantasy for the moment I read Kevin Hearn's Iron Druid Chronicles because he has like different gods and goddesses and it could be like 48 Thors, right? In different versions, all different powers. Yeah, right. So like if you and I believe in this one the most, this is the one that's the most powerful. And it was like a cool concept, but like there were he wrote a lot of origin of myth stuff and he's like, no, like this is Bigfoot. This isn't really Bigfoot. And like I was like, oh, that's cool that he's using myths and history or historical mysteries, which is one of my favorites. I have a historical mystery unit I do with my students that we're actually about to get to soon, just to help with the research process and things, but also to to really try and garner some interest, and they can kind of choose. But those books both sound really cool to me because I always loved like the Grimm fairy tale movie with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger. I always thought that was like super cool. Yeah, so I totally get that. I always wanted to do like a Piper story. I have one I'm working on where it's like because I always thought that myth was interesting. And there was somebody from the Magnus Archives, and there's one about World War One, and this was so interesting. This is exactly what you're talking about. Is like there was a story about the Pied Piper in World War One. And what's interesting is I did not realize until I listened to that episode that the story was actually from like Hamburg, Germany or something like that. And like where the battlefield actually was that the Magnus Archives, the story took place at, was actually where the Pied Piper was from. And so they had that original story and they kind of did something a little different. So that's like one of my favorite things. And that's like the only reason I really love, like I love a lot of things about urban fantasy, but that's like my favorite thing to do is to take something like that and to make it really interesting. So I totally vibe with that. So I understand that completely. That's super cool. And what a cool class. I have a geography minor, so geology was
It was.
yeah, is my jam. Oh,
I once wrote a poem called "An Ode to Cracked Sidewalks."
oh, that's awesome. It's super cool.
We had a
I would
journal
read that. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
so
that's cool. I would really read that. Yeah, that's awesome. My kids are always like asking me questions. I'm like, they're like, why do you do this and not science? I'm like, I don't know. I said, I think if the earth science, like program and stuff had been a little bit better. I went to Michigan State and it was great. It's like number one education college in the country. And it still is. It's like when I went there, I think it's 20 something years, 22, 23. But man, like, yeah, there were other departments that were a little like geography was awesome, but like the geology department was had some good teachers, but as a whole, it wasn't the best. So but yeah, they're always teasing me like, you should come with us and do this. I'm like, yeah, it's still a fun subject for me. But I love like Jules Verne, all sorts of things, the hollow earth theory. Like there's a lot of things I think that I just find really like fascinating in terms of science fiction, geology, and different things, or just mythology in general. They actually, one of my professors got me into the ether, actually. Um, and in geology, it's weird, right? You think it'd be my history teacher, mythology teacher, or something, or one of the world religions or something. But yeah, it was a geology professor, and we were talking about like ancient geology.
hmm
And I mean, it was, and geography was just absolutely like incredible. And it goes back to what you were saying about like where these myths and stuff started from. So I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
really fun to write about them. Yeah, that's super cool.
fun. It's really fun.
Well, so we'll talk now next about genre. So what genre or genres do you currently write in and why?
Okay, well, I am writing in urban fantasy. And it's interesting. The story, as I started writing it, I wouldn't be able to tell you, oh, yes, I'm going to write a fantasy story. It
Mm.
was just, this is the story I want to tell. These are the characters that are coming in my mind and they're screaming to be put on the page. And pretty much like halfway through, I got to the book, writing it, I realized, oh, this is a fantasy. And it's, told in today's world. So clearly it's an urban
Yeah.
fantasy. So it's funny because I know some people already say as they're starting to read, this is going to be a mystery or this is a sci-fi and I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. It was just, oh, this is the story I'm
Interesting.
writing.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
turns out it's a fantasy. I was like, oh,
Mm.
okay. And so many other wonderful books that I've read that kind of influence that as well. But that's yeah, it is definitely a fantasy. So urban fantasy, which
That's
I'm
cool.
having so much fun with because I love being able to have that creativity, or even though it's in today's world, you still have so much flexibility in your creativity
Yeah.
and the worlds that you get to develop and create. And I love that freedom.
Yeah, I have students ask me all the time, like, why urban fantasy? I'm like, it takes my favorite things, like my knowledge of the real world, fantasy, history, mythology, supernatural, mixes them together, magic. I'm like, it's just, yeah, I think it's a really cool conglomeration. So I'm kind of kicking myself because I didn't realize like how much urban fantasy I'd actually read as a kid, right? Like the was it like Dark Rising technically is an urban fantasy, right? And it's just like so many of them. Like I just talked to a friend recently on here and he's like, yeah, technically like Harry Potter's an urban fantasy. And he just blew my mind. I was like, yeah, that really is an urban fantasy because you have all these creatures, you have hidden magic, and I was like, wow, like I was like, it's portal fantasy, but it's also urban fantasy. Like, so, yeah, I thought that was super interesting. I do think that's so interesting, though, that you just kind of wrote the story that you wanted and then got the genre. That's super cool.
Yeah, just
That's
kind of
really
realized
awesome.
that's what it was. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I was halfway through that I realized that. I was like, because people would ask me, oh, well, what genre is it? And I was, well, I'm just writing this story. But halfway through, it was like, oh, obvious. That's what it is. And I love that
Yeah.
world. So it's
That's cool.
so much fun and creative. And it's really a lot. It brings me a lot of joy. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'll talk to people and I feel like a lot of people like don't know their subgenre until they've actually, got gotten going and stuff. And like some of my stuff, I think you could like certain stories I'm like saving for my urban fantasy world are going to take place much older because it's the history teacher in me.
Yeah.
I can't help it. And I'm like creating like my own subgenre. My friend and I, Logan D. Irons, we're creating historical urban fantasy. But it's like, it's like interesting, right? Because you're like, I don't know. I'm not much of a genre person because I think like Philip K. Dickman, right? Like you could go anywhere and find his Dark Materials or the Golden Compass. Like could be young adult, could be classics, like could be fantasy, sci-fi, like, and it doesn't matter, right? Because you just go and pick up the book and it's like they're amazing. So I think sometimes as long as you're telling me that, I always now I just look at cover, blurb, like title, cover, blurb, and go from there. I don't look at genre, I don't look at reviews, and I have to say, everybody, I'm much happier. Like you have to know yourself, I think, a little bit more as a reader.
Mhm.
But I had an author send me, like you sent me your book. I had somebody else send me their book the other day. Well, Tom Lloyd, actually, who I just interviewed yesterday, he sent me his books, and I was like, "Yep, this is definitely my thing." Like, I just knew, I was like one, two, three, and I knew right from there. So, but I do think that's really cool that you just wrote and kind of figure out the genre later, because I think some people get stuck, right? Like trying to, I have to fit it here, but instead of just writing the story they want, and then kind of tweaking later. So, I just wanted to point that out for the audience. I think that makes total sense. That's super cool. Maybe that's what I should do
It kind of gives you
instead of,
freedom as well. You don't have to pigeonhole
yeah,
yourself. You can
I
kind of
like that. Yeah.
tell the story as it is inside of you and
Mm.
as it's coming out, and then as it's sort of shaping, then you'll have a better idea of where you're headed. But at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
that gives you a little more freedom, maybe. At least that's what I found.
Oh yeah, I think that's great advice actually. I'm gonna start trying that more myself because even like within the story, yeah, because there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have to put this in because it's the genre of urban fantasy, right? And I find that like it's hard because I don't want to be restricted, right? It's my creative thing, so maybe I need to do that myself. So I'm gonna try that now. I think that's great advice. This is my favorite question because I always get to talk to people about their works in particular. Inspirations, everything is really great, but I like to actually talk to people about their works themselves. I feel like we all get a lot out of it. So, what are your books? Sorry, what is your book, The Keepers of the Rock? And I should have asked you before we got started how to say that. Is it the Debilis Rising? Is that how you say it?
You're very close. The Debili Rising. And
Debili
Debili
Rising.
is like a sheep. You can have one or you can have
Oh, that's
many,
cool.
but it's just Debili. And it's actually it's a Latin word that means weak
Mm.
people. And
Oh,
I'll
that's
get
cool.
into the meaning of it, but it's very specific.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yes,
it's super cool.
that's what it means.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what the book's about and then how you came up with this idea.
Okay, so I will start, if I can start with the second question
Oh, go
first.
right ahead. Yeah, go
Okay,
right ahead.
first question. So it's kind of a funny story, but let me take you back to when my family and I lived in San Antonio, Texas. And we lived in this area of Texas where, when the homes were developed, it was all on limestone. So you'd
Mm.
have, a little bit of grass, a little bit of,
Yeah.
dirt's put down, and the grass in the houses. And then, but there's not enough dirt there to really like
Yeah.
keep. So
Yeah.
when you mow the lawn, you're going to get rocks and stuff pinging you. So my husband and I had this kind of joking arrangement that he would pay the taxes if I would mow the lawn.
Mm.
Because I didn't want to do that part of it. And he didn't want to mow the lawn. He hated it. And so I would go out there with my ball cap. And I think I might have told you I've got 4 kids. So the kids were sort of varying ages at that point. So I didn't have any fancy sunglasses. I would grab, a pair from Halloween that the kids had, or someone's birthday party. It might have been fluorescent green, whatever.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
looked like a big hot mess.
I've
But I
been
put
there.
glasses
Yeah.
on. I go out and I mow the lawn, and I'm getting hit by all these little limestone rocks. And believe it or not, that's kind of when the story started to come to me. The characters
Wow.
started coming to me. And so I actually loved that I got to mow the lawn because when I did, that was when I had this really creative freedom, and my mind would just kind of
Oh, cool.
wander. And this story really started forming. So
Mm.
that said, here we are now. So the Keepers of the Rock, for centuries, the Keepers of the Rock, which is the world's oldest secret society, has protected the earth from ancient evil and careless humans. And their abilities are basically abilities are gifted them from the earth's elements. So we have rocks, minerals, and geological phenomena like volcanoes. And so their whole job is to protect the earth,
Mm.
the earth itself. And they walked amongst us. and sort of gently prod humanity towards balance, sort of keeping the world in balance. But there's this rising evil that's coming back, the Debili. And the Debili was thought to be diminished, but now they're set on worldwide domination. So it is up to the keepers, who are the heroes of this story, to train the next generation of students to be able to help them keep the earth safe
That's
and
cool.
going well. And these new students and their abilities will help determine whether the earth is healed or whether it's dominated. So
Cool.
what does that mean? So I've got 6 different abilities, and I'll just go through them briefly because that gives you
Oh yeah, please.
a real colorful idea of what the story is about. So we have what's called Vulko, and keepers who are Vulko have abilities to sense volcanic eruptions
That's cool.
and know when volcanic eruptions are going to happen well before any other regular person will.
That's
And
cool.
a Vulko might, as they grow up, their goal may be to help humanity figure out ways to determine when volcanoes are happening faster. And they can also manipulate lava, and they'll use that to counteract the Debili. So if they have to fight the Debili, they can use their enhancements,
That's
their
cool.
abilities around volcanoes. We also have Tectos, and Tectos are able to sense vibrations in the earth. So they know when an earthquake is going to happen thousands of miles away. And they also want to be able to help help humanity figure out better ways to detect earthquakes. And so
That's
people
cool.
can get out and save themselves and their families and so forth. But
Mm,
they also can create some kind of earthquakes if they need to do that to protect against the Debili. Then we
That's
have
cool.
Magros, and Magros are able to manipulate rare earths. So they are very, very attracted to rare earths, and which are magnetic, of course. And so they can manipulate them and shape them and create shapes with them and so forth, and also use them to attack the Debili. They can make it, like create prisons and structures and things that can hamper a Debili from doing whatever they're doing. And then we have ingenios. Ingenios are kind of like the engineers of the group. And they can look at crystals. And crystals are piezoelectric, which means that they have a vibration that's a constant vibration, which is why we use them in all sorts of, as lasers and all sorts of other cool ways today in science. And so they actually use them. They can create lasers with them and use them
Oh, that's cool.
to kind of counteract the Debili. We have pharaohs, and pharaohs basically are attracted to metals in the ground, so phosphorus and metals, and they have affinity for that. And they can use heat manipulation to kind of shape all those. And then resogems basically can take gems, minerals, crystals, and they sense if there's negative energy in them. So I love this idea because I don't know if you ever watched a TV show called Warehouse 13.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, love that show, or Supernatural, or even in
Oh yeah.
so all those supernatural stories, the idea that there might be these evil gems or minerals that are dangerous to be in society, and you have to get them out of society. So those that are resogems, their whole job is to sort of go out and sense those and get them out of circulation, because either the Debili might use them to manipulate human beings, or human beings might get them and not know what they are. And then it sort of really affects them emotionally, and they'll start to become very angry and very emotional and can wind up hurting people and killing people. So we need to get those out of society. And then we have the emogems. And the emogems are actually the healers. And they're able to use rocks, minerals, and gems to heal, not regular people, but to heal other keepers who wind up going out and maybe getting injured and hurt. And I really like to say that pretty much in any mid city that you may go, you'll probably find a rock store or a crystal store.
Oh yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
I got really into the history of it. And it's so interesting to know that people have been feeling that there's healing properties or important properties in these rocks, minerals, and gems for thousands of years. So even the
Yeah.
Romans and the
Mm.
other groups of people, Vikings, carried rocks and minerals and gems with them in battle, because they felt that that was going to kind of protect them. And so I really get into the history of that and delve
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's so cool that even now, today, we still have that same relationship with them. So in this world, we have several groups. So we have regular people, which are called commoners, and that's not meant in a derogatory sense, but they're just sometimes keepers may think, you know what, it's kind of nice to not be in the know. It's kind of nice to
Yeah,
know what goes bump in the night
yeah, yeah.
and to just go about your life and see the world as it is. And so the commoners, they very much appreciate them. They're regular people and they go about their business. Then there's the keepers, and these are our superheroes. These are our heroes with these abilities that, and their job is to protect the earth. And so this, as we get into with the students coming in, can be really tricky because a lot of these students will come in and think, oh, well, I have this ability. So can I go out and go help people? And can I go out and go take this terrible dictator out because they're really awful? And the keepers will say, no, we do not get involved in the lives of human beings. We don't get involved in their politics. We don't get involved in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And there's very good reason for that. And I go throughout the book and bring up a little bit of history, talking about there's other times when other countries have taken over other areas, trying to think that they could do better. And usually it doesn't wind up going well.
Yeah.
And so there's been samples in the story, I talk about it, where the keepers have just thought, no, we have to get involved. This is such a horrible situation. And they do, and it's a disaster. So they are allowed to go in and deal with the Debili. The Debili are exactly the same as the keepers. They have the same abilities, but the keepers have a strong moral code and they have adhered to it for thousands of years. So they absolutely are there to protect the earth. They are there for good. And the Debili don't care. They use the same abilities to manipulate people willfully in whichever way they want to be able to garner as much power as they can have. And so you have this battle between the keepers and the Debili right amongst society as the world is going along. And the keepers, when they bring in these new students in the school, have to help them figure out and teach a lot about how do we make sure regular people don't find out about us, because that would be a disaster. And I come up with this little small example, like for instance, people get so upset, rightfully so, if we find out that a Olympian has enhanced themselves to do well in their sport.
Yeah.
So we get very upset. So let's just imagine if regular people find out that there are other people like you who have abilities in this world, who can do very big things. How is that? That's going to be terrible, and what's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to us? Either we might get, somebody might want to use us for scientific experiments and figure things out about how we tick and what's going on with us and take us apart, or they might capture us and make us do things for their own desires or whatever it is, and use us in powerful ways. So it's so important to keep them secret. And so one thing I also bring in is our last little group, our guardians. And those are the very few regular people who are regular commoners who do know about the keepers. And they have dedicated their lives to helping them and will not in any way, shape, or form do anything to let them know that they exist. And so sometimes those might be writers. So anytime throughout history, what the keepers have done is anytime the Debili have done something that sort of removes the veil and makes people wonder what's going on, they will have somebody come up with a literary monster. And so that's where they invented Frankenstein and invented werewolves and invented Dracula. Is to say, something's going on. We need to give humans a monster that they can focus on. And so they'll forget what's happening over here. We don't want them to know what's going on. And so I kind of put that in there as well. So that's kind of the world into itself.
Oh, that's cool. I'm so sorry. I just got to grab my charger for some reason. It's like yelling at me. There's got to be something going on with me. Sorry, I had to write down a couple of questions there. Just because I think it would be really helpful, because I've had quite a few people ask me, like, how I do this kind of thing, or how, some of my guests do this kind of thing. So I always because I always call this like a journeyman's podcast, people that, are just about to publish their first book, or maybe they might be like 1, 2, and 3, but they're trying to like elevate their craft. When you were saying a couple things, I was like, oh, that's a really good point. So I'm curious if you don't mind just letting us know like how you came up with these different classes and abilities. Like what was it exactly that you're like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to use that for this ability because they all sound really cool. But I think sometimes we're like, oh, that's really cool. But podcasters forget, right? When they're interviewing everybody, it's like part of that process. And I always find that really helpful for myself. So I'm curious how you came up and classified those different abilities.
Oh, sure. So, for instance, the emo gem, like I told you about going into these, seeing these stores all over the place, and people who, and honestly, walking on, I volunteer on my kids' high school campus, and I would see, especially after COVID, I saw so many more kids wearing like little crystals around their necks.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my husband and I happened to be buying a mattress one day, and right next door was this rock store, and we went in there, and the women were lovely, and they were telling me we have so many more teenagers coming in than
Mm.
we've ever had before for whatever reason. And then the weirdest thing she told me was they actually have dogs that will be, their owners will walk these dogs by these stores, and the dogs insist on going inside and will sit there in front of like a big crystal stone for just a few minutes and just sit there. And they're like, I don't know
Yeah,
why this dog is doing that, but every day we have to go. It's just kind of interesting.
that's interesting.
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick emo gems. And then reso gems is sort of like a nice opposite of that. And then,
Mm.
for instance, we literally just had the Louvre broken into, and
Yeah, this is wild.
wonderful Napoleon jewels that and others that have been stolen. So people have always loved the shiny and the beautiful for their value, and just because they're beautiful. And so I wanted to also dig into the, like, not just have healers but also have people that were more into the black market. So I have this character named Reese who's Australian. He's one of my favorite. He's very kind of cantankerous and tells a lot of jokes. And so he is the guy who goes into the black market and he helps ferret out all the
Oh, that's
gems
cool.
and minerals that have evil energy amongst them, and to get
Mm.
them out of the regular populace. So those were two that
Mm.
were really important to me. Rare earths are so huge in our lives today, and we use them in everything. And so I thought that was really important that I include them. And I actually also I have a TikTok and Instagram page, and I do something called What's in Our Stuff, if anybody's interested.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I talk about like everyday items that we use, and we kind of forget that stuff was dug out of the ground to make them. And so it's
Yeah, yeah.
like an appreciation for what we use on an everyday basis. Like there's rare earths in our computers and rare earths in our cell phones. And, we wouldn't be able to use them without that. And I think now we have, like, we're going to be doing a new deal with Australia to be able to get some of their rare earths.
Oh, that's cool.
So we can, anyway, so they're very, very important. And so I thought that was really cool to be able to use those, because they're magnetic, and the characters that I have that have that ability are able to make them into these really incredible shapes. And I don't know if you
Oh,
can
that's
see
cool.
right here, there's this little bird, and this is Edgar, and Edgar is made entirely of rare earths. And he was
Yeah, that's cool.
one of the younger students. His name is Tu. He happens to be from China. And when he's on the bus on the way, and here's Fabic, you can imagine Fabic is saying his little nursery rhymes, where the kids are all in this big van, and they're all from all over the world. It's a very international novel. So there's kids and teachers are from all
Oh,
different.
cool.
So he's with these other students, anytime he's anxious or he's a little bored, he'll play with the rare earth in his pocket and just like create things with them. And he
That's
creates
cool.
a bird. And because it's an urban fantasy, Edgar is alive. And he kind of gifts her to Zandra, who is the headmistress, who's very
Mm.
much the mistress of her domain over the school. And so Edgar kind of gets to roam all over campus, and he's become his own character. He kind of loses pieces of
That's cool.
himself. And for whatever reason, one of his feet always wind up on the top of his head. So he's got like and then Tu's
That's
running
awesome.
around trying to like fix them and put them back together. But anyway, so rare earths I thought were really important to include.
Mm.
And then we have, if you think about thousands of years ago, we have all these, blacksmiths, from Roman times and even before, making things, creating things, whether it's swords and tools or tools that we use for farming equipment. And so I thought, you know what, we need to have, I need to bring in somebody who really works with iron, like
Mm.
old iron, and
Oh, yeah.
evoke the idea. And because tools have been something that, you know, humanity's used, and that's what's gotten us to where we are, whether it's from the very beginning Stone Age or moving on, we've always used earth materials and elements for tools. So that's really important to bring in. And then I think crystals are very cool. And not only are they fun to like wear, but we actually use them in science, and we actually use them in lasers and other really cool technologies. And so that was very important. So it sort of was like thinking about what we use today, and also going back well in history and what we used back then, and how that and today are sort of combined. And it sort of creates this, gives the keepers this ability where they have constantly been the same from
Mm.
the beginning of when they started. Even as no matter how modern the world has gotten, they have kept the same with their principles, what they believe in, and what their abilities are. And so it brings a connection from the ancient to the modern, which I thought was kind of fun. So
That's
anyway, I
really
hope that
cool.
answers your question.
No, it totally does. I just like, I don't know. I keep trying to think of things that to ask people that, I have conversations with people about, or maybe, some things where I'm like, oh, like things I'm struggling with, to create. So I think it's always good to not just ask the question, but also, like get the answer, but also to figure out how, everybody got there. Because I don't think I always thought about that as I was like, I always try to ask questions that other people don't ask because I'm always like, now when I'm listening to somebody, I like doing the live chats. So for Mike and Ro last night for Bald and Balding, I was like, they had a really cool Tracy's a really cool narrator, and I was like, oh, I really, and I was like, what's this question, please? So, but they were nice enough to ask my question, and it was like really, really cool to get, her ask, her perspective for it. Because I don't think we hear enough as authors, right, of, the other people involved in the process. And I think it's a really valuable, perspective. So, and she said some amazing things that I had never considered. So, but yeah, I think sometimes it's really good to break some of those things down. So I think that's a really great example. And then when it came to, like what did you focus on most when it came to the world building? I always find it really interesting for like urban fantasy just in general, for where people kind of started from.
You know, I started with the hero abilities, and
Mm.
specifically with the younger students.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
and as I said, I've got 4 kids myself, and so some of them were teenagers at that time. And so these students are finishing high school and getting ready. They all want to go forth and have more education, so they're planning on going to college. But the School of Geoevolution is very unique. It's not a school that you apply to. It's a school where they find you. And
Mm.
that's because, as I said, there's guardians throughout the world and keepers who have their various jobs, and they will find the students. They just kind of are aware of where these students are. And so I really started focusing on them and thinking about their kind of mindset and what was going on with them at the
Mm.
time. And they're all from these different families from different countries. And why would they want to go to a school that they've never heard of in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the countryside of Virginia, and all of a sudden be pulled away from everything they know, except for the fact that they know they're different. They know they
Mm.
have this difference about them, and they all, for various reasons, have been pretty smart and savvy about not really sharing it with the world. So sometimes they'll talk about it with their families, and clearly their families will think like, "What are you talking about?" Like, for instance, my character Elise, she's the one who actually is the tecto, so she feels the vibrations in the earth, and she happens to be deaf, so she can't hear anything.
Interesting.
And so she would ask her parents, like, did you feel that, did you feel that vibration? And they would look at her and go, what are you talking about? And her mother would invariably think it had something to do with her hearing issue. And so she'd take her to a
Mm.
doctor, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy because they
Yeah, yeah,
can't understand her. But she learned
yeah.
very early on, I should not talk about this. Like clearly they don't understand me. And when I do mention it, the result is not something I want to deal with. So
Mm.
they all kind of know that they shouldn't let their friends or family know that something's very unique about them. So when they find out about the school, they are definitely more motivated to give it a try because they also want to delve deeper into the thing that they know really well.
Mm.
So, for instance, my character who knows volcanoes, he loves everything about volcanoes and he gets a sense of when there's going to be an eruption. He's able to manipulate lava and play with them. I have this very beginning scene in the story where he's from Hawaii, and so he's running to football practice with his other football mates. And so he likes to stop where he lives in Hawaii and pick up, just some volcanic rock that's lying around. For whatever reason, that little piece like speaks to him, and he goes and he picks it up and he plays with it. And then one of his friends says, "Hey, toss it over here. I want to see it." And they touch it, and their hands are like burned. They have like second-degree burns on their hands.
Oh wow.
And he looks at his hands. He's like, I don't understand. Like it's fine. It feels fine to me. And they of course think that's it's very odd and very strange, but they don't want to be late to football practice. They got to get the other kid to the hospital. So nothing really comes of it. But that's like a really strong incident for him to know, okay, clearly I need to do something else. Like clearly there's something else to the world. They all know that there's more to the world than they know. There's something else going on that most people don't seem to understand. So I really wanted to delve into those characters, the younger characters, and what are their motivations and their concerns and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I started.
That's cool. And that kind of leads us right into the next question when it comes to their character development. Like what did you focus on the most?
Mm. A lot of times it was because I majored in psychology and my background is clinical social work. I really kind of delve a lot. I always want to know about inner motivations, inner
Mm,
concerns, like for
yeah,
each
yeah.
one of these characters and the adult teachers as well. So, like, what are
Oh,
their
yeah.
worries? What are their dreams? What is really motivating them towards this change in their lives? And then what are they going to do when they get there? How are they going to interact with all these other students? Because I think a really good backstory is fun to develop and sort of knowing whether it's disagreements with parents or a health issue or whatever it might have been.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it that these kids have gone through and other characters have gone through that propels them towards their future actions and motivations? And so I think when you have that little background, even if you don't write about it, but you know what it is,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
know how they're affected by certain things that happen. And so that was I really helpful for me and maybe the lens that I see things through because of my training in psychology. But I just thought that that was a fun way to kind of to go and it sort of naturally fit for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good thing though that that you went with was like what's natural to you. 'Cause I think some people try to do what's not natural to them and it's difficult. I am not a Marine. I'll never be a Marine. So my character is a monster hunter. Like him and I understand each other far more when he gets older. But like in my prequels, my first one, it's like I'm just like struggling. And I'm like really trying, but it's like I understand his motivations, but like there's other parts of him, like him. I thought him and I were very similar. We're not very similar at times, so it gets tough to write. So I definitely think, yeah, like finding how like how you can put the glasses on and see through your lens, I think is very, very important, particularly when it comes to getting to know a character and their motivations. So I think that makes total sense. It's interesting because like I think of Rick Riordan series, and maybe it's because I only got through the original one, like the 5 books, but I didn't find Dionysius or any of those people that ran the Camp Half Blood very interesting. Like I thought they were interesting, but I don't know. Their motivations I think were lacking. But like I think when you take someone like Snape from Harry Potter, like the fact that he was in love with Harry's mom and like discovered her and stuff and helped him, like I don't know, like I was just like the whole thing like between the books and the movies like blew me away. And
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting when you're mentioning the teachers too, because we always say that here, we're like teachers are people too, and I think it's important to remember for this type of fantasy and this style to remember that. So I just want to point that out. I think that's a really great thing that you thought of. I hate when people make them the adults cookie cutter But and I feel like if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you had a lot of that at times with the within the genres. So I really like that that you also thought of like the teachers as well. Maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I'm older now too. I don't want to be left out, but I think that's really valuable. So
And the teachers, one of the earlier, every year, for twice a year actually, they go inside the caverns in New Mexico to meet because I don't know if you've ever been to those Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. They're
no, actually, I lived in Phoenix. We were trying to go, but I went to the Mammoth Cave down in Kentucky, and that was like super, super cool.
very cool. So they have a biannual meeting down there, and actually one of
Oh,
the
that's cool.
guardians is a National Park Service employee, and so he's like guarding and making sure that they can all go and meet down there. But
Mm,
those are the teachers; those are the core teachers,
cool.
and each one of them's from a different continent. So when they're not teaching, they go back to their region to kind of
Oh, that's
observe
cool.
everything and make sure there's no debili running around and figure out what's happening. But they're very much the teachers. I very much get into they squabble. They're like a big family, and they have relationships amongst one another, and like it's like a big functional dysfunctional family. So I really kind of get into their backstories as well. But for you, I think it's still you still can absolutely write that character. And I've listened to you on some of your other interviews, and you talk about talking to friends and other people who have been in the military.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Perfect. I think if they can kind of give you a sense of what his character might be or what his feelings are when he's serving, then you can absolutely write that, because we can't.
Yeah,
I never like that phrase, write about what you know, because that's so
yeah.
limiting. It's
Yeah, you're gonna be in this little box. Like,
right. Like, really, who's going to want to research read about only what I know? But if you can research it and you learn a little about it, I think then the world's your oyster. So
yeah,
you'll get them right. I'm
yeah.
sure.
Well, it's just funny you say that because my favorite character of all time is Mr. Miyagi, and I'm definitely not a like 5 foot Japanese martial arts. I try with the martial arts mastering part, but he's like, yeah, like people ask me like, who's your favorite character? I'm like, oh, he's by far my favorite character. And yeah, I just yeah, if I only wrote what I knew, right, like, and if anybody was like that, right, yeah, like you wouldn't get characters like that, right? In my opinion. So, because the people that wrote that movie, right, that was like he wasn't even supposed to be that type of character until Pat came in, and I love the director's cut because you realize that the movie changed. Like, yeah, it's really interesting. Like Pat Morita came in and did the whole voice and everything, and acted a certain way, and they changed the whole movie around him, and that became the character. This is my favorite character of all time. So, yeah. So, but like if they had written what they knew I wouldn't get my favorite character. So I
Yeah.
think that's an important lesson to learn about audience personally. So as well as, being a writer and author. So, but I think that's really great advice. So I got to ask this one. So how did you come to be a finalist for the National Indie Excellence Award, and what did it feel like to get that news? That's super cool.
Oh,
Congrats.
I will say I have ADHD and attentive type. Three of my four kids also do. I found out about it when I was an adult. It's actually kind of funny. I was sitting on the counselor's couch and my last child was getting evaluated. And all of a sudden, I had this epiphany of remembering my mother screaming at me in like fifth grade. I was in fifth grade and she was saying, I'm not going to help you anymore. You're not paying attention. You're not listening. And I went,
Mm,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's where this is coming from. It's me. And so I wound up getting tested. But anxiety comes with some ADD, and a lot of people have anxiety. And so I
Yeah.
definitely have a little imposter syndrome with being a writer, and this is my first book. So getting that award just was it meant so much to me, and it was such an honor just to let me know, like, okay, yes, I did write a book. Some people like it. I feel like
Yeah.
Sally Field, you really like me, you really like me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So it was such an honor. It was such an honor, and it just helps that I can, I'll write the next one, and it just spurs me forward. But it's whatever, it's that, or whenever you have a good review from somebody or a
Mm,
person who tells you, I really love that character. It means so much. It means so much to hear that, because it really kind of spurs us on, and it lets us, continue along those venues. So yeah, it was like I cried. I have to
that's
say,
awesome.
it meant a lot.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. Sorry, I hear one of the future guests who always like talks to me about things. Um, and I know they're going to message me if I don't answer this question. Go back and ask you this question.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the Debili?
How did I the word or the characters?
Oh, either way, I think that's just like super cool. But I know they're gonna ask me, why didn't you ask that question? So I'm gonna wait to get to the seventh one and ask that one now because I know they're gonna ask me, or like they're gonna be like, wait, and it's great, right? Because called me out, guys, like my students do, because I think I missed that one, but I think that I can just like feel them, a couple people in the audience like
I'm
asking now.
totally going to answer that. And then that reminds me that I have something else important I have to bring up
Perfect.
about the book. But it's actually a Latin word and it means weak or feeble. And so the keepers created that word. That's what they call their counterpart, these evil people who basically have their same abilities, but use them for their own personal reasons. And what they believe, and they've seen through the centuries, because this is the oldest secret society, is that when these people with the same abilities use them over and over to harm others, it physically, think of like a chemical half-life, it physically degrades them. It sort of erodes their soul and it erodes them physically. And
Mm,
it kind of gets to a point, I actually, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but
mm.
it just, they basically decompensate. And
That's cool.
so they become kind of rotten from the inside out. So it's this Latin word meaning weak or feeble. Like these characters, these evil characters, don't have a strong moral fiber. They don't have a strong moral code. They don't care about other people. And so they are definitely that. So that's where the word comes from. And
Oh,
it took
interesting.
me a very long time to come up with that term. I was looking at, I probably looked through 15 different languages, whether
Mm,
it's Latin or even Sanskrit or French or Old English, or I looked so many different languages to find a word that I thought would say what I wanted to say.
yeah.
And the book has many layers, so every single character's name has meaning. So
Oh,
in
cool.
their language, so from whatever country they are from, I very specifically picked that name based on what it meant.
Oh,
And
cool.
that's kind of Easter eggs for everybody to find as they read to figure
That's super cool.
what do these words mean regarding that character. But they're very purposeful. And so this book is a little bit different because it actually has footnotes in it. And I
Cool.
have an owl right at the beginning of the book, and his name is Augie. My oldest son
Oh,
actually
cool.
created it for me. It's an image.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it stands for the Advancement of Unbiased Global Intellectual Exploration. So
Oh, that's cool.
anytime there's like a history or a science term in the book, I will have like a little footnote at the bottom that you
Oh,
can
that's cool.
read, and some of them are clickable. And I have
Oh, cool.
a really cool organization that I paired with called mindat.org, and they very nicely said that I could bring them up in the book. And so if I mention like an emerald or a diamond in the story, you can actually go onto their site, click on that site or look it up on Google based on what I've written there, and it will take you to what it looks like in the earth. So
Oh, that's cool.
emerald that in the earth, and then all of the like its weight and dimensions and all that really cool stuff. They're a rock emerald mineral aficionado site. And it's just really neat because I didn't want them you just to think, okay, this is what an emerald looks like, or this is what this mineral looks like, polished and fancy in a store. What does it look like when it's in the earth and natural? And so you can see that. And also in the very beginning of the book, because we bring it up a lot, I mention it a lot, I have my own periodic table of elements.
Oh, that's cool.
Every chapter is named for an element
Oh,
because
that's cool.
yeah, because of course, with all these ferro and resogems and minerals, you get into the elements of the periodic table. So
Yeah,
kind of geek out that way. I love doing that. So,
that's cool. No, that's awesome.
so what I was referencing is with the Debili, there is actually, depending on where you find it in the story, there is a footnote there that takes you to a YouTube video of a praying mantis. So I know praying mantises, they're very important. They're great for our gardens. They're protected. But I always feel, if you think of like the sci-fi world, that if one was like really huge,
Mhm.
it would totally bite our head off.
Yeah, yeah,
They just have that creepy kind of look about them, and they won't
yeah.
they walk in this back and forth motion. So when these Debili compensate so much, they kind of look like a praying mantis. They kind of are
Oh,
like
that's cool.
really skinny and scary, and they're they have like fangs and they have like long, so they look kind of really scary. So when they're sort of really bad off, they kind of look like that. And I have a visual of that. It's
Oh, that's cool.
kind of creepy, but as wonderful as
That's
they are,
awesome.
I would never hurt one, but they kind of scare me.
Yeah. I don't blame you at all. Now, speaking of powers, though, so if you could have any power from your world, which one would it be and why?
I would definitely be a resigem. I
Okay.
would want to be able to go throughout and find rocks and minerals and gems that have like some evil negative energy and be able to
Yeah.
throw them away. And that kind of goes back to my love of Warehouse 13 or,
Mm.
Supernatural. I love that aspect of having like a secret society that takes away this stuff that can harm people.
Oh, yeah.
And there was even a show like forever ago called Friday the 13th or something like
Oh, it
that.
was great.
Yeah, and that one too.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
has the same aspect of it. So that's what the
Yeah.
Regicum kind of do. And the school actually has a room that
Oh,
has a
that's
lot
cool.
of these pieces hidden there.
Oh, that's cool.
So they squirrel them away.
Yeah, that's super cool. I forgot about that show. I used to watch that with my grandpa back in the day.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think we watched like I must watch the first couple or something. Then he passed away, and I just like kind of kept watching it after that. So yeah, that was a really good one. Well, that sounds really awesome. And yeah, I love my kids are always like, you're just a geology nerd. You just love it too much. I'm like, but I was like, you guys just clearly didn't have a good geology teacher. Like that's what I always say. So yeah, I think that's super cool. But what a cool way for like, for anybody really to to read something that isn't science, right? Like related, you could say. I think it always is as a historian, but I think that it's really cool that you could learn more through the process of reading urban fantasy. So I think that's super cool. The teacher in me is like, good job. So I think that's really
Well,
neat.
I hope they would
um,
like it. I hope they'd be interested. And I
yeah.
bring up some historical figures. So we talk about Henry
Oh, cool.
VIII and
Oh, cool.
Third and Raymond Lull and Vlad the Impaler. He's there
Oh,
too.
nice.
All sorts of cool people in history who
It's another one. My kids are like, "You're obsessed with that guy." I was like, "I find him fascinating." Like, yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I keep forgetting I'm gonna have to talk to some of my students about your book because I know that that'll definitely be like their type of thing. So I'll have to get a physical copy in here and put it on the old school bookshelf. They'll probably be.
love to
I
know.
know like three or four kids that would definitely be their thing. I brought a couple other ones. Oh, I'm blanking on the author, but the book's Amari. There's like three or four of them now. So I just asked him. I was like, "Hey," and he's like, "I can't interview. I don't have time to interview." He's like, "But I'll send you a book." I was like, "Oh, it's cool." And I had to like locate my copies, but I had so many kids like run through those because it's like they love the Harry Potters and stuff, and there's only so much Rick Riordan to go around, So I think it's really cool, that they kind of I don't know. I feel like it's a little more niche now, right? Like there's not as many people. They're like, "Oh, J.K. Rowling did it, so I can't do it." And even if it's not Portal Fantasy, right? Like just like yeah, I had a lot of kids are going back to those classic like the Darkest Rising and stuff because they're not finding a lot. Fablehaven, I know a lot of them, really enjoyed that kind of thing.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That was a great series. My daughter obsessed over it. She loved it. It's very cool.
I read it with some kids at a school in Michigan. It was really good. I actually had to go back to them. I only got to like book 3 with them. So, but yeah, I think that's really awesome. So I want to make sure we have just enough time here, and we're like just so perfect on time. And a knock on wood that my day goes so smoothly when I get home. My little guy, probably won't, but that's okay. But do you have any news updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us today?
Yes. So I am starting to work on book 2. So, and if this book sort of gives you an introduction into the world, and so if you think of Earth striation, we're kind of going a couple levels
Oh,
down.
that's
The
awesome.
next book, we are diving deep. We are going to like
Sweet.
really I'm going to open up this world and get into a lot more details as
That's
these
awesome.
kids are they've kind of gotten used to the school. They're kind of getting a sense of who they are. Now they're
Yeah,
going to
yeah, yeah.
really understand what the world is like. And so we're
Oh,
going
that's
to
awesome.
delve deeper into there. And then I'm pretty active on my TikTok and my Instagram accounts. And as I say, I do these videos called What's in Our Stuff. And so I continue to keep doing them. Like my very first one was Pepto-Bismol. Because a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
cool.
people know, you take that when your stomach hurts, but a lot of people didn't realize that there's a little bit of bismuth and pepper,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is an element in the periodic table. So I sort of always talk about that. I talk about rare earths and how they're in our cell phones and computers and just really cool stuff. So I try to do some of those. And there's some other funny videos where I'm portraying a couple of my characters and
Oh, that's cool.
trying to be goofy in some way, just to explore the story and hope everybody are excited about it. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that sounds awesome. I'm always trying to tell people, they're like, "What are you gonna do to like get your stuff?" I was like, "I'm just gonna put it on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna create another one. I'm just gonna double post it and talk about characters, world building, stuff you and I have already talked about." I'm like, I think it sounds awesome. I think it's the best way to advertise, right? Is to really just like have that's like what we're doing now, right? So I think like, just going on there and 3 5 minute videos, personally, I think like, and like people do it on TikTok. I'm like, well, I just told a couple people, I was like, why not do it on YouTube channel? Everybody gets a free YouTube channel if you have a Gmail, so you might as well, I think, use it. Use those author emails, people. That's what I'm always saying. Well, I think that sounds awesome. I just want to remind people that you can find the links in the description anywhere, whether you're watching or listening to these podcasts. And make sure that if you are reading any of our guest books, that you're checking out not only their links and then doing that, but also reviewing those products because it's really the best way to get everybody involved in the
oh,
process,
sure.
the authors, creatives. Also, like I know that helps my artists out. Tom Edwards, thank you, Tom. Caleb Gosens, my original one, so it helps everybody out. Development editor, I have Sarah Chorn for my first one. So, it just helps everybody out in the process. So please continue to do that. That's been a great theme for us the last 3 years, and we're not going to stop with that. But thank you so much for coming on today. This was great. If you need anything else in the meantime, just let me know. I'll send you the podcast group Facebook invite. Feel free to post in there whenever you want. Everybody else is free to come in and check us out. We love having people that watch different things, fantasy, sci-fi, or people that want to come in, different readers of really the different genres, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, any of those subgenres. So everybody come and check us out. There's like almost 3,000 people, and it's been really, really fun. We've had a lot of really great things shared. But yeah, if there's anything else I can do for you in the meantime, just let me know. You guys have my email. And then other than that, I'll email you the rest of your info between this week and then the day before the episode airs, and we'll get everything situated for you.
Thank you so much. It was such a
Yeah, no
pleasure
problem.
to talk with you. And I love that you're in your classroom. That's just very cool. I enjoy
It's
that.
either here in my basement, my office, like living here for a while. But yeah, we'll get there one of these days.
Geeking out because I'm thinking, is that slate or is that some other
Oh.
material that you're writing on? Or are you using real chalk or what are you using?
Yeah, I'm using real chalk, but these boards are a little different than
Mhm.
chalkboards I've had typically. So I'm gonna have to ask my friend because she actually asked me that a while ago. She's one of our science teachers,
Mhm.
and we were actually trying to figure that out because it's definitely a little on the darker side and not as green.
Yeah.
And it's a little like you have to, yeah, like there are certain types of chalks that we have to use that show up better and erase better. So I know it's like it was very different. I've been doing this for half my life, and I'm like, I didn't know that these kind of boards were like even a thing. I think they were supposed
Yeah.
to be more professional because we were out of college, but yeah, it was like very, very different. So it took a little while to get used to. So, and now I got my TV set up, so the kids like that more anyway.
Oh,
So
sure.
they don't like that nails on the chalkboard sound the chalk makes. So yeah, yeah, it's really funny. But if there's anything else I can do for you, you just email me and we'll get it done for you. I look forward to reading the book. It's gonna be on my 2026 reading list. Part two. It's a 2 part video. I think I got like 60 books so far. So once I get that done, I'll send that to you. But yeah, if there's anything else you need in the meantime, just let me know, okay?
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And good luck
No,
to you
thank you so
with
much.
your
Yeah,
writing
thank you.
and
I
your
appreciate it.
kid. He's
Yeah,
getting,
yeah, yeah.
that's a perfect
Right.
age, but they keep you
Yeah,
active.
yeah. Tell that to myself tonight. He hasn't been sleeping lately, but we'll get there. So yeah, he's
Uh-huh.
really fun. I can't wait. I'm just gonna go play with him tonight because I don't really have much to do besides like editing. I'm just like waiting on
Mhm.
Riverside to like load stuff. It just takes forever lately. So I'll like load a couple episodes and things, and then him and I will like go to the park or something. So
Oh,
it's a nice little fall area that our park is at, and it's like right next to my house. So yeah,
that's
it's
so
awesome.
exciting. But you said he's 2.5?
Yeah, he'll be 3 in January.
So this is like the first year that he'll really kind of maybe get more out of the Halloween, the experience.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. I got a Spider-Man sweatsuit that I'm ordering today to be here by like this week because he won't wear a costume.
Oh,
But I know he'll want to do something, and he likes Spider-Man, so yeah, I think he'll really like that.
that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so fun with you. I love it. That's
yeah.
great. I remember that so vividly. It's very cool.
Yeah, last year was the first year we went out with him, and he was like able to walk around and stuff. So we're just like we got a lot of really nice people in our neighborhood, and it's like you don't have to worry about like traffic and stuff. Like everybody knows if you're not going some like either leave the neighborhood or just like stay home kind of thing. And it's been pretty nice. So we really just had like influx of people coming in, and we're just gonna kind of do that with some of our my in-laws and stuff. So my nephew will come over that's in town, so we'll have quite a good time. So I can't wait.
Good day. Oh, well,
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
good time. And thank you
I
again.
appreciate it.
We enjoyed this.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I can't wait for book two. Let me know when you're ready and we'll have you on and we'll talk about book two. It sounds awesome.
Great. And if your students want to read it, I'd be love to know what they think.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'll definitely let you know. I'm gonna actually refer that to a couple of them. Were asking me the other day, and I was like so tired yesterday, I didn't know what to tell them. So I'll go back and I'll refer your book to them. So we're scientific pathways here and technology pathways. So I'm sure and they love fantasy. So I'm sure quite a few of them would be down for the book. So I can't wait to tell them actually
If you
tomorrow.
want to
So.
send me your address, I'll pop a copy in the mail for you.
Oh no, I appreciate that. I always do an unboxing video, and anybody that sends me a book, anybody out there, let me know. I'll send you mine as well. I think it's only fair. So that's awesome. I will definitely do that once I get home and I start editing and stuff. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll give you the whole box. You see the whole
Oh, that's awesome.
of it, and there's all sorts of little
Super
goodies
cool.
inside of it. So I'll give
That's awesome.
you a special influencer box.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'll make sure it gets everywhere. That's super cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of the day, and I'll email you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to
See
see
you later.
you.
Bye.